Man, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of EOS 10 out of J, man. I'm rocking with y'all like y'all rocking with me. For this video right here, I'm gonna give y'all what y'all want. You know what I mean? I tell y'all there's certain things I don't tell y'all because not everybody is ready to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, especially when people try to think with a civilian mindset and judge us on what we do inside of prison, or, you know, they try to justify what we've been through inside of prison. One thing I hear a lot is, oh, if you don't want to go through that, don't go to prison. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard, right? Because you're pretty much justifying what we go through with the expectation that we somehow come out rehabilitated, right? So I'm going to tell y'all why so many people come home damaged after Florida State Prison. Why so many people are shell-shocked after Florida State Prison. This is an amazing comparison that I love, right? And I brought it up on my Instagram. Shell-shock is, you know, it's a word that's come from war back in the days. And it's basically PTSD, people that come home from the war, they're not the same, they're bugged out, they're looking crazy. Any little thing got them on edge, you know what I'm saying? It relates to prison 110%. And one thing that I want to bring up before I dive into the video is a lot of people will say something to me like, bro, you've only done 3 years. That ain't nothing. You've only done 3 years. You haven't been through nothing. You haven't. This is what I find funny, right? You got other prison channels that have done a lot of time. You got people that have done 15, 20, 25 years and can't tell you stories like what I can tell you. Can't tell you experiences like what I can tell you. You got people that have done way more time than me and haven't been through half of the things that I've been through. And my comparison is when you sign up for the military, if you sign up 3 years, right, for the military, just like me, I did 36 months in prison. When you go to war, you are not at war for 36 months. You are at war for deployments. If you have a 6-month deployment in Iraq, you are in Iraq for 6 months. You might catch 5 bodies your first hour in Iraq. You might get in, you don't know what's going to happen. Whether you're a gunner in the Jeep, whether you're walking down the street, they come through spraying, you start spraying. And when all the dust settles down, you caught bodies. They got clapped. Your 2 people next to you, your 2 homeboys, they're both dead. You went through that in your first hour. You see what I'm saying? You can go through so much in such a small amount of time when you are in a war zone. And that is the difference between my bid and the people that you are trying to compare me to that have done 10, 15, 20. But they were never in a war zone. They were just bored, sitting there reading straight stunting magazines, looking at pictures of girls, you know, betting on the Super Bowl, whatever it was. We wasn't doing that. We were going to war. It was straight action. This video right here finna be by TOHs, torture gang. What it means to get a TOH, why you're getting a TOH, and how they TOH. TOH, for y'all that don't know, is a test of hot. In the JIT camp, the youth offender prisons 14 to 24, damn near any prison you go to, it's fucking mandatory. You're getting one. Period. It's gonna happen. Now, the biggest factor is if your own people are gonna do it to you or your enemy is gonna do it to you. And if you're a neutron, everybody's gonna do it to you. It doesn't even matter. You might get multiple TOHs. Just because you have to. Just because you're a neutron and you ain't rocking with nobody and you don't want to rock with nobody. It is what it is. So every time you get put into a dorm, you're getting another TOH from whatever gang is running it or from whatever gang want to run down on you and press you. If somebody feel like they tougher than you, they might TOH you and y'all going to run that. And how you handle that and act after that, that's the only thing that matters, right? So a test of high, what is it? It is torture, period. A test of high is torture. Some people try to say, oh, they just want to see if you're about it. They want to see if you're fighting. Listen, when your own people test you, that's what they're looking for. You know what I mean? You come in talking about you blood, we're going to run down on you like we Crippin' or like we GD in this bitch. We ain't going to say nothing about blood. We might say F blood, whatever it is. You know what I'm saying? We're going to get in your mind and manipulate your mind and have you thinking you're in a whole dorm full of the opposite. Because we want to see how you react to it. We want to see, are you going to stand on your own? That's what we're looking for. We want to see that you're not going to fold, that you're going to represent it the same way we're going to represent it. Just like when I met Red Light. The first second I met Red Light, I didn't know who he was. He looked at me and he called me the most derogatory thing he could call me, as a blood. So immediately, it's a call out, slide to the bathroom. I dive in there, I come back out. He didn't come. Come to find out, everybody in front of me was a blood, but I didn't know it. But they wanted to see if I would fight. They wanted to see how I was going to react to what happened. You know what I'm saying? And no, I'm not going to pop off on him. I know y'all going to be like, why you ain't hit him right there? Because there was COs out here. I'm not just going to hit him in front of the camera. That's a check-in move. That's like a PC stunt. I'm going to hit you just so I can go to confinement. Nah, we going to slide off in the cut where can't nobody see us. And if I get off, you got the ability to come get back. It is what it is. And if you get off, I got the ability to get back. That's real. We ain't doing no police stunts. None of that. We ain't stunting on camera. Even though Lancaster, there wasn't any cameras anyway. But you have walking cameras. Meaning you have people that are going to tell on anything they see. There's plenty of walking cameras moving around. Just like there is in society, right? If your own people test you, they don't want to hurt you. They don't want you to be messed up, right? But if we're TOH and somebody else, you come in talking about you're a Zoe or something that we're not aligned with, we want to punish you. See, the goal is to make you break it off. The goal is to extort you, to make you fold your flag, to make you say, I'm not banging with them no more. I'm under y'all. I'm going to give y'all whatever y'all want. That's what the goal is. That's why people run TOHs. We want to fold your brothers. We want to make them sit down and write down all the gang knowledge that y'all got. So all y'all codes, we know it. Everything y'all got going on, we know it. Y'all sign language, we know it. So we can read and listen to everything y'all doing. So we ready for when y'all try to make a move. And that's what we're trying to do. And that's what they're trying to do. Everyone's doing it. Every gang in there is doing it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's trying to have the most people under extortion. Why? I'm not going to put the knife in my bunk. I'm going to put the knife in his bunk. He's a jizzle. If he gets caught with it, I don't care. It's no loss to me. He goes to confinement. He's going to get replaced because at Lancaster, what was it? Every Tuesday or Thursday, we got a bus full of new people. So you know more people are going to hit the compound. The majority of them are going to break it off or go PC. It is what it is. Now, not all TOHs are extreme. Not all of them are extreme. But the ones you hear about in the news, the ones where there's federal investigations, the ones where people are getting paid because they sued the Department of Corrections, those are the ones that are the most extreme. I was in county with a kid from Tampa. I'm not putting his name out there. He went to Sumter before me. He got raped with a broomstick. He got jumped. He got beat. The guy turned a blind eye. He got a broomstick up there. He didn't tell on nobody, nothing. He went in the shower. He couldn't stop the bleeding. IW, as he is named in court papers, was 17 when he was attacked in July 2013. He was choked, beaten, raped with a broom handle, and stabbed more than 100 times with barbed wire by approximately 6 other prisoners as part of an initiation ritual called the Test of Hot that went ignored by the guard who was responsible for security. It was torture, said IW, who has since been released from prison, returned to his home and found employment. I knew the guy could see what was happening, yet he did nothing. I have never felt so afraid or so alone. The officer on duty and the defendant in the lawsuit, I'm not going to say his name, He was in the officer's station right next to the bathroom where the attack occurred. Surveillance footage confirmed that there was a clean line of sight into the bathroom, yet the officer did nothing to stop the attack and did not report the attack. The officer was named as the defendant because officers can be held individually liable when someone is injured, according to federal law. Despite a recommendation for administrative action by an investigator with Florida Department of Corrections Office of the Inspector General, the officer is still an FDOC employee. Neither the officer nor anyone else was disciplined by the department as a result of the incident. After reporting what happened, RW was placed in confinement. He had to tell the CO he had to go to medical. That kid got awarded like $60,000 or something like that. Blank said he wasn't allowed any recreation, was deprived of schooling, and isolated from the rest of the prison population for 90 days. He pleaded with staff not to transfer him to another youthful offender facility, fearing he would have to suffer another test of hot. And that's exactly what happened when he transferred to Lancaster a few months later. He did endure another beating, a test of hot at Lancaster at the hands of other kids. There's so many different cases. There was a case at Lancaster of a kid that got raped through the broomstick in A dorm, which is the orientation dorm. They ambushed another inmate in an isolated corner of A dorm in an unlocked concrete block room at Lancaster Correctional Institution, one of 4 state prisons in Florida where crime wears a young face. It was May 7th, 2013. Blank, 19, a new inmate, was slammed in the back of his head with a bar of soap stuffed inside a sock. 6 inmates pinned him down and 1 grabbed him by his throat as 2 others dragged him across the carpeted floor by his ankles, according to the department's report on the attack. The young prisoners between the ages of 18 and 20 kept demanding that he pay the money to stop the beating, but he refused. He tried in vain to wrestle his way out of the heap of inmates, who locked him in a chokehold and began to kick and beat him with more socks stuffed with soap. "That's okay, I have something for you," said one inmate, identified by Blank in the Florida Department of Corrections report as Blank, a 20-year-old convicted rapist. "Get the broom," he said. What happened next was crueler and more unforgiving than the crime that sent Blank to prison. What happened to this kid was worse than what sent him to prison. He wasn't the only inmate that day, that year, or that month to suffer a beating by gang members in Florida's youthful offender prisons. The extortion ritual is so common and well known by both inmates and correction officers that it has a name. It's called a test of hot. His beating lasted about 30 minutes, but it was the final 5 to 10 minutes that almost killed him. He was crouched on his knees like a cat, one witness told investigators, as the inmates tugged at his pants. Blank, 18, grabbed a broom and began pushing it into his rectum, according to court documents. He later said he had to bounce on the broom several times to make it go as far up as he could push it, the prison report said. Finally, they gave up, leaving him bloody and almost unconscious on the floor. There were no video cameras in the room, and the one corrections officer assigned to the dorm that afternoon was inexplicably nowhere to be found. Hours later, with blood still gushing from his wound, he was placed in a DOC vehicle and transported 40 minutes east to UF Health Shands Hospital in Gainesville. It's not clear why an ambulance wasn't called. By then, he had lost a lot of blood, his rectum was ruptured, and he underwent an emergency colostomy, according to his attorneys. His attorney said his client served out the rest of his 3-year prison term while wearing a colostomy bag and had 5 or 6 surgeries in prison that likely cost Florida taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars. In a federal civil rights lawsuit filed in 2014 against the prison's warden, 3 ranking officers, and the guard who admitted he left his post that day, Blank claims that the fights are a part of a ritual that had been condoned by the agency. The suit says the DOC has allowed the gangs to extort and beat inmates for years. There isn't any doubt that they could have killed him. This wasn't a fist fight, and it wasn't the first attack that day or that month. They were impaling people. It's like something out of the Middle Ages. The Herald asked the department to provide any memos, plans of actions, or directives to staff at its youthful offender facilities to show that the agency has a strategy for ending the test of hot extortion and beatings. DOC spokesman Blank said no written communication exists, but that the agency did close the A dorm where the attack happened. You know what they did with A dorm? They made it the orientation dorm. Back then it was a regular dorm. They didn't close it, they just switched it up. Because I went through A dorm. When you go into A dorm, you got the hallway in front of you, you got the hallway to the right. I was in the hallway to the right, the very first cell on the right. There was a sex offender that got raped with a broomstick at Lake Butler, where the COs popped the door to his cell in I Block, let 2 inmates run off in there with a broomstick, and they put him on a shit bag for the rest of his life. Now, there's no sympathy for him. It is what it is. But a lot of these other kids, it's really just you fell victim. It doesn't matter how tough you are. When people are jumping you, when you got 8 people on you inside of a mock closet, it's a wrap. It's gonna happen. One of my dogs from Tampa, he got hit with a broomstick. You know what I'm saying? They got him with it. What happened, and what did he do after? He went and grabbed a razor and cut 3 people immediately. Never lost his respect, ever, because it's about what happens after the fact. After you go through that torture, what are you gonna do? One of my brothers got held down. They took boiling water and they put his genitals inside of the boiling water. This is at a JIT camp. He was what, 16, 17 when this happened? This is how it's rocking in here. This is what's going down. It's torture. There are people that are held down and lit on fire. And they're just going to cook you until you break it off. But one of the most popular things that happens is they take the fence pokers. They take the piece of the chain link fence, they straighten it out, they sharpen it up. And what they do is they hold you down and stretch your body out. And they poke you up like this here. Fast. All up in your ribs, all up in your thighs, your ass cheeks. They'll hold the bottom of your feet and poke your feet up. They'll poke your armpits up. Anywhere where your body is super sensitive, they're poking it up quick. And you got kids getting poked up 150, 250 times. I went to medical when I got cut. There was a kid in there looking sick. He could barely move. He got poked up 300 something times. When you go to medical for any injury, a laceration, a stab wound, a puncture wound, anything like that, every single wound has to be documented. They knew exactly how many times this kid got poked up. And he was suing. He went PC, suing the DOC, making a lawsuit out of it. Had his people come, they called the news. It's crazy, it's insane. But this is such a common thing that happens inside of these JIT prisons, these youth offender prisons, these TOHs. Now, I know a lot of y'all that follow prison channels, you've heard of the lock and the sock, right? When I was in prison, a lock and a sock, that is not your main choice of weaponry. That's not something you go for, because at the end of the day, you can get a lock off a canteen. You know what I'm saying? You get the little circular locks that they have at school for elementary schools and all that. You know, you put your little code in, got to go to the right, then the left, then back to the right, and it unlocks, right? We used to take the locks off the fences, the big square master locks, and hit people over the head with them. It's an immediate concussion. You don't know what the fuck just happened to you. You don't know how to say your own name. You don't know how to talk. We're busting heads with them. Those were the locks we were firing people up with. But the locks off a canteen, that lock right there, a jizzle will pop off, a crash dummy will pop off, puts a little patch in your head, nothing too crazy. But what they really get used for is the TOHs. So when they hold you down and they stretch your body out, they take the lock and the sock and they beat the lock off your kneecaps until your kneecaps turn black. I mean, they're only going to turn black if you're white or if you're Hispanic, because the blood Vessels are busting under the skin. You can see the blood under the skin. They're going to beat your kneecaps in with them. They're going to beat your ribs in with them. We're going to beat everything except for your face, because when the COs see you, we don't want you to go to confinement. You see what I'm saying? The reason we poke you up under your feet, aside from the fact that it's so fucking painful and sensitive to get poked. Take a number 2 pencil, sharpen a pencil, and poke the bottom of your fucking foot. And tell me if you could take that. Tell me if you could handle that pain. The whole time you on lockdown. 30 minutes, 40 minutes, somebody just poking you up nonstop with that shit. Another reason they do it though is you can't fucking walk. You're not walking nowhere after that. You can't run up and hit none of us up after that. You're fucking limping all the way around the whole fucking dorm. There's nothing you can do. You get poked up in your ass cheeks, you can't even fucking sit down correctly. That's the thing. When you get stabbed, when you get poked up, it hurts like a bitch when it happens. It hurts even worse the next day because it sores the muscles. Everything inside of you is hurting. So when you stretch, all you feel is pain. That's all you feel from this torture you go through that's called the test of high. There was a white boy that I was in CFRC with inside an H dorm, and he had GK tatted on his hands. He didn't have GDK, he had GK tatted on his hands. The GDs assumed it meant gangster killer, and they took offense. They cut this kid's tattoo off, right? Held him down, cut the tattoo off. What does this kid do? Waited until it healed up and tatted GK over it again. There was a kid at Sumter, the Zoes held him down and cut a Z into his face. He was from Fort Myers, Florida. He wanted to be a blood, but he wasn't a blood. They held him down and took a razor and cut a Z into his face. What did he do? He took a razor and cut a K into his face. So the sky says ZK, Zo Killer. This is the type of shit that people don't come back from. This is the type of shit people don't forget and people on the street don't understand. Why do we do it? Because we're starving. Because we're already getting abused and oppressed by the COs. So what are we going to do? We need to eat, right? The strong need to eat. The weak are going to die out. And that's what's going to happen inside of these prisons. If you're weak, we're coming to get whatever you have. We need it. We want it. You want to gang bang? I want to know for a fucking fact, if you get moved into another dorm and there's none of us in there, you're going to hold me the fuck down. You're not going to be repping what I'm repping. You go over there and fold your flag and you're giving up all the knowledge and everything else. None of that. We want to know you're going to rock, because when they put me over there, I'm rocking out. Whether I got to get hit up or I got to hit something up, whatever way it goes, this is your test I had. This is your TOH. It's fucking mandatory. You get it. You're going to get it. Pray that you make it through, because the kid that died at Lancaster CI on October 9th, 2014, Yalix Torado, 20, died after being placed in confinement. A more restrictive form of incarceration at Lancaster. Neither the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, which investigated the death, nor the Department of Corrections has provided any details about what happened to him. Karen Garcia, a parent of a current inmate at Lancaster, said her son was friends with Torado. Her son told her that prior to his death, Torado was beaten by a group of inmates who broke his ribs with a broom handle. It's disgusting. Where are the gods when a 20-year-old was getting beat and died, she said. I have no comfort level that my son is going to be okay. That murder's still under investigation. But everybody that was there, we all know what happened. We know what the fuck went on. It's crazy. It's a crazy fucking world. I hope none of y'all have to experience. It's 1090 Jake. I'm rocking with y'all and y'all rocking with me. Till next time.